Hello, and welcome to another U.S. Tech Workers podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Lynn, and today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2019. And today, I am joined by Dena Moore. Now, Dena isn't a stranger to our podcast. She's been on our podcast before, and many of you in the tech community might recognize her name because she was one of the tech workers at Disney that was laid off, their entire department outsourced, and all of them forced to train their replacements who were H-1B visa workers. But we're not going to focus on that. In fact, when we talk about that experience, it'll only be tangentially because Dena is the author of a new book and an amazing book that I think is going to have a lot of relevance to everyone, including tech workers. And I'm going to share my screen right now and bring up the copy of the book. And the book is called How to Be Happy, Live, Love, Happy. Without any further ado, Dena, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kevin, and thanks for having me on today. It's a pleasure.
Wow, it's so great to have you here, Dena. And as I mentioned, we're only going to be mentioning your tech experience tangentially. I really want to focus on your book because it's more than just happiness. When you read the book, it's not just like this pursuit of happiness and pleasure and stuff.
Right.
You have some really fantastic advice and exercises and things people can do to create true happiness that comes from the core. And I think this is important because many, many tech workers out there, many workers in America are living in a lot of despair because they've been displaced, they're not working in their chosen fields, they're having a tough time adjusting. And overall, I think there's just, your book, more than happiness, also helps teach what I call resilience to people, making them more resilient to these storms that life can throw our way. And I'm actually going to read a little bit from your book. In the introduction, for instance, you say, we all have stories, hurdles we overcame or need to overcome. How often does your day start? Then something along the lines, wham, you're hit with anxiety or anger that passes through you like unchecked rage due to someone's actions, words or circumstances, surprises in our everyday lives that seem overwhelming, pull us down. Sometimes it isn't that daily grind, it's our lives as a whole. Our situation, whether it is family, environment, career, or friends, that pull us into the swirling drain of unhappiness. Now, what I want to talk about, there's some things I had learned about you in this introduction, Dena, that I didn't know. Like, for instance, I didn't know you'd been bitten by a brown recluse spider.
Yeah, that was scary. I'm supposed to be living in a bubble, but
right,
that's not going to happen.
Okay, now this is amazing. I mean, I know people who have been bitten by brown recluse spiders, so I know the health issues involved in the recovery from that. But I didn't know, Dena, you were kidnapped?
Yes, when I went traveling around the world when I was 36 years old, and very naive, and I fell into some very wrong hands. But luckily, because I had been a tech worker, I had some money, and I could literally buy my way out from my captives.
So literally, there had to be a ransom paid for your release.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Now, did that clean you out financially? I started
my journey. Did it what?
Did it clean you out financially?
No, because good or bad, I don't play all my cards on the table. They thought they had everything. that I owned. I guess I looked and could talk very convincing. But it was a pretty big sum of money because I'd sold my house and I'd started off on this journey. So it was a bit of a shock for me, but I was thankful to be out with my life. So money can be made every day if you
Right.
have a true foundation of you. And what I'm learning now is that if you have a true foundation of your happiness, you don't let even those big things knock you over. You just pick up, go, I'm breathing. It's a great day, and I think I'll continue on. And
Any
now I
day
got to get smarter and
above
get
the ground
smarter.
is a good one, huh?
That's right.
Oh my gosh. Now, I want to just read in your words your story at Disney, um, where you talk about, you state, in the land of the free and brave, I found myself betrayed by one of the most symbolic of companies in America, Disney. My coworkers and I fired in my 50s and replaced by cheap foreign labor that I had to train. That I have found, Dena, has been a very, very difficult thing for members of U.S. tech workers to recover from.
Yes, I've had friends who actually, didn't recover. I believe they truly passed away from the stress and the anxiety, which also prompted me to, finally put to pen and paper what I did because I seemed so much stronger in my foundation that it didn't knock me over. Where some of my friends, it truly, you know, was way too impactful. Very sad.
Yeah, and what I had learned, and for those who don't know this, I had spent the whole decade of the 80s in the military. I went in when I was 17, 2 days out of high school, and at 28, 29, I chose to change things. I resigned my commission, kicked around, started an import-export business with a friend of mine from Europe. It failed dramatically. I was bankrupted. But in it all, I had learned, I'd even done like multi-level marketing, things like that, anything I was just grasping on trying to do things. But although none of that seemed to pay off, what I had learned through that experience, because you read all these motivational books and how to sell, and you realize that, and it's funny because I had read passages in your book like how to get up and greet your day. Well, those are things, if you're out to sell a product, well, you have to be up and smiling and feeling good and looking good because, people aren't mind readers, but they do know when your game is off. And that may keep them from putting trust and confidence in you. So there's very practical things in your book like that as well. And I just think all these things that you talk about help from, based on my experience, really help with creating a more resilient person. You understand that you're going to get rejected a lot. You're going to fail, but you got to brush yourself off. And instead of, as they say, waiting for that ship to come in, sometimes you just got to swim out to it.
Right, right.
So, Dena, before we get into the crux of your book, it's really interesting that there's a publication I subscribe to. It's called Lapham's Quarterly, and it's they every quarter they come up with a topic. Perhaps it's trade, or perhaps it is leadership, and then they bring in footnote literature throughout history on that topic. Well, this month, as you've probably seen, or this quarter, is about happiness. It dovetails so well with the subject of your book.
It is.
And there's something I want to read from this that really hit me because you get into this in your book. And this is in the foreword by David Wooten, because I guess Lapham is on vacation, but he writes, "We trick ourselves into thinking we know what is needed to be happy: a promotion, a new car, a vacation, a good-looking partner. We believe this even though we know there are plenty of people with good jobs, new cars, vacations, and attractive partners, and many of them are miserable. But they too imagine their misery can be fixed by a bottle of Paris or a yacht or public adulation. In practice, our strategies for finding happiness are usually self-defeating. There's plenty of empirical evidence to suggest that much of what we do to gain happiness doesn't pay off. It seems that aiming at happiness is always a misconceived project. Happiness comes, as John Stuart Mill insisted, as the unintended outcome of aiming at something else. The right pursuit of happiness, wrote Aldous Huxley, is nothing else than the right to disillusionment phrased in another way. And there's another part in his intro where he talks about, for the Greeks and Romans, happiness was linked to success. The happy man was someone good at living up to the ideals of manhood. Virtue, happiness, and success were inextricably intertwined. And I know you talk about that as well in your book. So from there, Dena, I want to get now, the underpinning of your book is what you refer to as the 3 pillars, correct?
Correct. And funny, what you read and what everybody's pursuit is only one part of the 3rd pillar. People don't seek pillar 1, pillar 2, or even the 3 other parts to pillar 3. And it, as you read, it can be people who have money or people who don't have money. When it comes to happiness, they're all the same, because money isn't the sole factor to bring you happiness at all.
Wow. So the 3 pillars, you write, true happiness equals meaningful life, purpose, and pleasure. Feelings of meaning equal a meaningful life. Purpose equals your why in life. Pleasure equals joy, gratitude, serenity, interest, hope, pride, amusement, inspiration, awe, satisfied delight, gladness, glee, content, enjoyment, love, and happy. Now explain that to us, Dena.
So pillar 1, for a meaningful life, it encompasses so much more than you. It's your family, it's your friends, your extended family, your work. And you have to find out and answer the question, what is meaningful and what makes people proud of you and you proud of yourself.
Right.
Because pride will carry your foundation and make it solid. People just let that part go. Not a lot of people, they just go through the drill every day. Or for the IT worker, because I've been the IT worker, whatever is in our mindset, and maybe it's not 100% of IT workers, but man, when we're on a project, almost everything else falls away.
Right. I know people that have missed meals, that you're getting tweets from them and texts from them at 2 a.m. because they're into it. They're into that space, that groove.
Right. And so taking it back to the IT worker, so put that aside and say, well, that's what makes them proud. They've got that covered, right? But you really need
and we have some amazingly talented people.
That's right.
They can code like no one's business.
Right. So, but if they've let the other parts of the pillar 1 fall aside, where it covers family, friends, hobbies, all the other small pieces, we'll put that to the side and come to the end and see how.
Right, because I want to talk to you a lot about that. I think that's important. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So in pillar 2, when you're finding your purpose and your why, again, so many commercials or books are telling people it's all about you. What is your purpose? What is your why? And what the book walks somebody through is, yes, that is important. That's one small piece. What is your purpose to your relationship with your friends, with your family, with your extended family, to the groups you belong to. I have a purpose with all of the different IT groups that I belong to. And sometimes you have to put yourself out there and be available to create your purpose.
It's interesting you say that, because another quote from Lapham's.
Oh no, this is great. I need to contact these people.
This is pretty amazing. Okay, Aristotle expected citizens to reflect the culture of their political community and to adopt the standards of their peers. But Locke imposes on each individual an obligation to find their own path to happiness. So I thought that was interesting, because it's like where we are in our community as well, and that's important. It's interesting because myself, I'd always consider myself somewhat feral as I've gone through my life, focusing really on career, not really on family, a little bit on friends and experiences. But now that I live in a community that's very settled, and it's a much smaller scale than where I'd been, like Los Angeles and Seoul, Korea, and all these places, I'm part of a community. I'm on the steering committee of an amazing group. I've started another group, and we've fought some amazing battles to preserve farmland, for instance. And I'm in the company of people I consider demigods, and I find myself being a better person as a result. And so that's where I think that community and friendship comes in, doesn't it?
Right. And so that, again, is building your foundation. If the foundation were made of concrete, you just laid the steel in there that's going to keep your foundation from cracking. That's going to stabilize it if you lived in Florida and the hurricanes came along. So it's, whether you knew it or not, you were actually making your foundation stronger by building the strength of pillar number 2.
Right. Now, so we talked about pillar 1, we've talked about pillar 2, now pillar 3.
It's very complicated.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It is, and it is tough. It is tough for the most part. The easy part is what people perceive as happiness. Buying that new car, getting that promotion, having a birthday party, going to the zoo with their kids. It's those getting that hug from that, your daughter or niece or grandchild that runs up to you. Those are the momentary fleeting.
Right. Happiness. I mean, it's like a stimulant.
Yeah, you just had an endorphin raise.
For something else. Yeah.
Right. But that, as part of pillar number 3, is just minor. The tough stuff in pillar 3 is, one of them is gratitude.
Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah, gratitude, because I've always been reminded, all of the success literature seems to talk about that. I've heard the term an attitude of gratitude. Why is that important?
Because it makes you realize that you're really a smaller part of something big. Going back to the very beginning of our conversation, when you asked me, was I worried about the money or did it set me back? And would you believe that in all these years, because that was over 10 years ago, I had never once thought about it like that.
Huh.
Because I was so grateful to have walked away basically unscathed physically. And so,
right, without the trauma that would probably energetically interfere with you making progress, don't you think?
Right. But one of the other habits, because in the book there's a lot of habits, one of the habits is don't play reruns, because the past is the past. Have you ever done that or known people that do that? They're the what ifs.
Oh my gosh, I talk to people today, grown adults that are still talking about things in their childhood.
Right. And so what I tell people is, it's a movie that the ending will never change. How many times will you watch a wonderful movie? You know, somebody might watch it 2 or 3 times. How many times do you rewatch a bad movie? Don't you shut it off sometimes
Right.
before you even get to the end? So in the book, one of the habits it teaches you is don't play the reruns, because guess what? No matter how, that end's not going to change. So make a new movie. And so I walk you through that. And I learned that so many of these things, I don't know if it was the, people I was around, my friends, my family. I've been blessed to be around a lot of positive people who would stop me in my tracks and give me little tidbits along the way. And then I've tried to share that. So I learned that early on in my 20s, and I forced myself to quit playing reruns.
And you're not talking this kind of delusional, don't worry, be happy, because I know
good or bad, this is not that book.
I know from working with you, Dena, because you're the one who built our H-1B database. You are always working. For instance, you keep your certifications current, your skills are sharp, you're always busy, you always undersell and over deliver. I mean, this isn't so. I know you're not one of these, oh, don't worry, be happy, everything is wonderful.
Yeah, no, it takes a lot of work, and I tell you that in the book. I tell you what's going to be easy, and I prepare you for, this is simple. It's just not always easy. And you have to work at it. You can't go buy it. You can't think yourself there. It does help to even project, smile when you don't want to smile. And I walk you through those exercises. But to get to the pillars, you have to put a little bit of work in it. But isn't it worth it to have a foundation so strong that even if something bad happens to your day, you're not going around saying, boy, that ruined my whole day.
Right.
Right. I haven't had that happen since my 20s. I said that in my 20s. Something would happen and be, oh, my whole day is ruined.
It's gone to shit. Close the door.
That's right. That's right. And you would let it impact your whole day.
And I still do that. I'm awful at that.
Yeah. And you were miserable to be around. And that's why I felt it was important to really analyze this. What's funny is I started this about 2.5 years ago.
Right.
And because I'm normally the overthinker, the making sure everything's just right. This isn't fluff, because I try to be really upfront with people, and I tell them, if you're in a state that you need the easy, here's the easy, and build on that. Now we're going to get to some tough stuff, and that's part of all the pillars are you have to really put some stuff in place. But I tell you what you should do, whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, because believe it or not, I was and probably still am an introvert.
It's interesting you say that because I did the Myers-Briggs test years ago. And I'm an INFP. I am very introverted. In fact, it was funny when I went back and met with some old elementary school friends of mine in my hometown that I grew up in. One woman remarked, she says, we couldn't drag 2 words out of you, and now we can't get you to shut up.
That's what people say to me. I'm not so we saved up all those years.
Right, and these are learned traits, Dena. Myself, I had a roommate in the early 1980s, and this guy was amazingly gregarious, and boy, I would just find myself mimicking his behaviors, how he talked to people. How do I go up and say, ladies, may I help you? Things that I wouldn't. I would be afraid.
You had to force yourself to get there.
Right. So mimicking is part of it. Would that be considered like one of the easy things, Dena, that you were talking about?
Yes. One of the easy things is, for those people who have a tough time even getting out of bed, to start their day down the right path, and learning how to smile, even if people don't want to engage in a conversation with somebody. The easy things are the things that that involve you, because a lot of people who are in that position of an introvert need those. need those small starting steps before they can get there. So one of the things in the pillar 3, because like I said, pillar 3 is tough, because it really makes you answer questions to yourself about, gratitude and being kind on purpose. And
not to be manipulative, but on purpose.
Right, on purpose, being kind. And it's funny because a lot of people go through the day, and I said, I'll ask people, hey, what did you do on purpose today to make somebody smile? And you think that's an easy question. And it's a real conversation starter because it makes people think. And then they're like going, and I've had people walk away from me and go call somebody to say hi, or to text somebody and do something. So that's easy.
It's interesting you say that, because I remember in the sales literature that I used to read, because I eventually became a business development kind of guy. One of the things that was at the core of so much of the literature was people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I could see just there, just trying to do something, make someone feel good. Mark Twain once said, person could live a year off a compliment. So I could see the power of that.
Right. So I do walk people through even the smallest of things that these days people brush off, but it's very small things that can greatly, and when you impact somebody else's life and they are grateful and smile back at you, it's actually rebounds back to you. Because a lot of it, people are like, well, you have me go do things for other people. And I'm like, yes, because that's part of it, because it will come back. It takes time. You will get there. But as like you were saying about the motivation, pleasure 3 is setting goals, learning how to set the goals, learning how to find out what you want. And one of the biggest things in the pleasure is finding your play personality, which is going to actually spin off into
what do you mean by that, Dena?
There are actually 8 different play personalities. You know how I don't know if it's still going on, but for the past few years, it's like, only do what you love. Don't settle for any other job. If you like to whistle, find a job whistling.
Follow your bliss.
Right. Which, is good. But sometimes you have to do that and say, that's my hobby, or you don't understand what kind of play personality you have. And when everybody's having a good time and you sit there and you wonder, why am I not having a good time? Something must be wrong with me. Well, if you understand your play personality, then it's like, you're like, you know what? This isn't my thing. I'm going to have a good time. There's nothing wrong with me because I know this isn't really my thing, but I'm supporting a friend. And you walk away. You can now walk away going, I'm cool with this. Not my thing, but hey, I've supported my friend, and I know why I wasn't having as much fun as these other people, because it wasn't my play personality.
Gotcha. That's very interesting. I mean, it's certainly a very interesting aspect in your book, and something that I found to be very innovative and new.
Right. It is. It's in the book, I give credit to the study, because again, just to expand on that in one of the future books, it will use that to help people know a little bit better about themselves and even what work they might want to go into, or where they thought they were going to be totally happy in one field. And I had them go through this and pick, and they're like, no wonder I'm not so happy doing what I'm doing. So pillar 3, even though it sounds easy, pleasure, how much easier could you get? It has a lot of work to it, but it's worth it. Like I said, it's simple. It's just not always easy, or it's easy, not always simple, whichever way you want to turn that. But going back to the IT people, if you want to go there right now.
Yes, absolutely.
So being the former IT person myself, and still I do IT work, let's just go through and say, well, I was hitting all pillars, or my friends who are in IT, they were hitting all pillars. but they were only hitting partial pillars. So they had a meaningful life in their work. You know,
Right.
IT people, we are compassionate. I mean, like you said, text at 2 a.m. We know our purpose, and that's to get the job done right, and we're actually having fun. So then you go down to, you know, what the meaningful life and purpose, it all gels into one, right? Almost. They're making their company money, they're making money to support their family, you know, their kids, they're making sure they have what they want, or their parents, or, you know, their significant other. And good or bad, I know some people just can't understand, for the IT worker, the pleasure and that immediate serotonin response is coding. I know
Okay.
to people, they go, that's work, and I'm here to tell you, no, it's not. It's fun. But again, that's because that's our play personality. We fit into that category. So then you come along with the outsourcing.
Right. Which
And
is like a hammer and so many other thousands of workers here in the United States.
right, any worker that is passionate about their work has become their life, because they are only taking a piece of pillar one, a piece of pillar two, and a piece of pillar three. They haven't made all of the pillars, or any one of the pillars, strong. And so when they're replaced, there went their meaning, there went their purpose, and there went their pleasure. And for a lot of folks, they've been in the business. I work with people who've been in the business 20, 30, 40 years that were let go. And, you know,
In fact,
the
I'll be
majority,
doing a podcast tomorrow with someone who is 60 and hasn't worked in a few years, and it's been really difficult. So these are people that have been in this a long time, you know, from the and many that I know from the very beginning. Maybe they're part of the first SAP class over in the United States. I mean, that's how far a lot of our peers can trace their roots in tech.
and so what they forgot to do along the way, because I've been guilty of it sometimes, but I've had to force myself because I knew better. You know, I kept going to meetings. I kept meeting new people. I kept upping my credentials, and that just meant meeting more people, becoming parts of communities, going out and offering my services to, you know, volunteer organizations. Of course, I volunteered to do their computer work,
Right.
but
Oh,
you
sure.
know,
When they find out what you know, oh my gosh, get her
right.
off the food line here.
Yeah, and so, you know, because deep down, I had learned these things, but I would say 85% of my friends in my IT world, they didn't do that.
And that's, I think,
Belonging
critically
to.
important. When I look at my background, my life is a series of ups and downs, and the downs were awful. But I would volunteer. I think last week Ross Perot passed away,
Right.
and when I started volunteering for his campaign in Phoenix, Arizona,
Isn't that amazing?
yeah, in 1992, I was organizing from a bicycle because I was broke. I had lost my car in an accident and couldn't replace it, but amazing things happened. I would go around on my bicycle, and like I stopped in at a trailer park because I had a thing from the campaign. Oh, there's a couple here that want to be members, so I went in, and it was Earl and Opal Twaits, and he
It's
had.
funny you remember their names and everything.
Oh yes, he was a retired cowboy bronc buster rider. She was into numerology, and it was right around dinner time, so they offered me dinner. I had dinner, and it ended up being this amazing relationship, as were many. And that's ultimately what set my trajectory to
Yep.
get out of that bad position, because these unintended relationships ended up changing the course of my life.
That's it. And I think that's why I wrote the book. And this will be this series, because I think there's so many people that don't intuitively know to do that,
Right.
because they're frozen. They're everything got taken away and they can't see to put which foot to put in front of the other, or how to even begin, because they're paralyzed by the fear that what just got taken away from them. And like you said, you just intuitively knew, and there's people that don't.
Right. And after a while, it just became habit, because it's like, okay, fire it again, out on the street, should have shut my mouth, but I didn't. So 2 days later,
you're where you're at today. If you've done that,
2 days later, I'm at an Armenian bakery. And then when they saw I had sales skills, they took me out of that and sent me off to sell their stuff at Costco. I think, like you said, it's important to just get doing something again, even if it's the wrong thing.
And that's where the Pillar 3, I think, helps people, because it does have so many aspects. There are exercises that walk you through, could it be worse? And walking you through, because by the time you're done, even the most terrible thing, as long as your breath is coming in and out of your lungs, after the exercise, you're grateful. Or it's, I do walk people through, what if you're an introvert, what to do? What if you're not an introvert? Here's what you can do. And even if you're an introvert, do this, but you don't have to talk. Because again, once you put yourself out there where you know to put yourself out, or how to behave or act or be, then it does help. And I think it can truly be learned.
And in some respects, these misfortunes that we encounter could be opportunities to learn and change and transform, don't you think?
Right. You just need the skills. You have to learn the skills. Somebody has to share the skills with you if you don't have them.
And that's what I love about your book. Now, I haven't seen the workbook yet, and I will be getting that. But I remember years ago, I was watching an advertisement. It was for a thing called Where There's a Will, There's an A. It was like, at that time, an early video cassette learning thing.
Okay, yeah.
And the guy was talking about how he structured the course. And he said, now, like, when your kids are leaving, you're going to tell them, hey, be safe out there. Okay, nice. But giving them something practical, like what you offer. He said, okay, when you pull up at an intersection, don't turn the wheels until you're ready to turn, because if you're hit from the back, that way you get pushed straight forward and not in. So what you do in your book, and what I'd found, was you give very, very practical advice. And I think that's critically important, because, I mean, no one needs to tell someone, and no one cares if they say, be motivated, get yourself up.
Right. And how do you do that?
Yes.
How do you do it? And so I think that's what I've seen in a lot of the books, because I do read a lot, is, and I believe you need to be happy and think yourself happy, but nobody tells you how.
Right.
How do you get there? How do you not pull the covers over your head because you're depressed? So I take it from there, and then I give you what the foundation is. So the book is filled with habits, and the book is filled with, now here's your pillars. Now here's what you have to do to get your pillars strong. And it's, you know them intuitively, most of them. You knew how to put the rods in the cement to make it a firm foundation by going out there and being parts of groups and community and volunteering. And, there's lots of different things that people can do. So that's what the workbook
and it's
takes all the words out.
And it all can be learned behavior.
It is learned, right. It's tasks, it's to do, and you don't have to do them all, but you have to do, you have to make sure your foundation, your pillars are good, because then that third part, that pleasure part of happiness that everybody thinks is happiness, doesn't quite become so important anymore.
Interesting. Wow.
One of the books coming out in the series is How to Buy Your Way to Happiness. And it's probably going to be a shocker when people read it.
The title makes me go, what? You can buy your way to happiness?
That's right.
Chocolate
that's right. That's the teaser.
Now, Dena, Now you're creating you're going to be creating a series of books following
Right.
this and workbooks. Now, do you also offer coaching, things of that to be of service?
Yes, I'm putting together. We had started to do live coaching, but I think we're going mostly webinar based, and I've done some speaking engagements. We travel a lot. So as this grows, then we will be doing more and more and do webinars and do speaking engagements. We see that in the very near future because it's, that's my mission, is to help people be happy. You can't sometimes just get it there reading a book. Sometimes you have to have the support, the love, and the actual physical hug from somebody
Yeah.
to help you through it.
The Chinese refer to it as the direct transmission. Much more effective.
Right. So, yep, that's the goal. There will be a time I'll never quit coding, only because that's my play. That's my play. I know that sounds terrible to some people, but it truly, I'm adventuresome too. I lead about 5 different lives, I think.
I noticed that. It's fun to discover this life. Dena Moore, the author.
Well, you have to, when you're done, it's about living life. It's your choice.
Great. Well, Dena, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. But just to, let people know, I have to practice my habits. Some of them I don't have to practice anymore. It comes naturally. Some of them I really have to practice because, like, even getting on this podcast with you, I had to prep myself up before I sat down. Because, I'm human. I know I'm a little bit of an introvert, but this passion and mission is more important than anything I can't overcome.
Right. And they're important because we were talking about the smile. Well, years ago, I had hired a service, and it was a woman, and she was kind of a lead developer. She would call and set up appointments. And after about a year, I went out to visit her facility, and in her office where she made the calls, there was a mirror.
Yep.
She would look at it before every call. So that's just.
I have goosebumps because I learned that at a company and a friend.
Right.
It was amazing.
Wow. Well, Dena, this was great spending some time with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to put your contact, the way people can get a hold of you, your website and everything, in the text of this, the text of this video, so they can reach out to you. And I really encourage tech workers to do just that, because, there's a whole, when I look at the talent in this group, there's a whole new world waiting for all of us. And, these are the people that will do it. And I think your book could be instrumental in
especially if they want to get back out there and get where they were. It truly is just a few extra steps to just start you on your path. If somebody feels like they're stuck, feel free to reach out to me.
Great.
Happy to talk to anybody.
Super. Well, Dena, thanks so much. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. I mean, it still helps with the algorithm.
That's right. It won't upset my day.
Exactly. Hey, as my mother would tell me, water off a duck's feathers.
Well, thanks, Kevin.
Well, thank you, Dena.
Thanks, viewers. Thanks for having me today.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.